patience, and we have spotlighted my video. So high five, thank you so much. Tonight's class is being recorded. Mary, would you like to say a few formal words before we get started if you're still with us? No, that's totally optional or not due to time, but I would love to pause to give you a few minutes if you'd like it.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you everybody for your patience tonight while we work through our technical difficulties. I just want to welcome you all to tonight's Paint and Sip. And I just want to let you know that here at AARP New Hampshire, we are focused on the health, financial security, and social connections critical to the well-being of the 50+ in the Granite State. We carry out our work through targeted advocacy at the state and federal levels, compelling engagement of the 50+ community statewide, and also serving as a trusted resource for information for our members and the public. I will, during this lesson, I will be putting in some links for you for caregiving resources. We do recognize that balancing caregiving responsibilities with work and other family obligations can feel overwhelming, even in the best of times. I'd like to stress that it's okay to reach out for support when you need it. Caregiving for a loved one is one of the most important roles you'll play as a friend or a family member, but no one should try to approach the responsibilities of caregiving alone. AARP does have a number of caregiving resource guides, and those links will be posted. If you are starting to think about the need to become a caregiver, AARP can also help you with their Prepare to Care guide. It's very important that caregivers make time to care for themselves. We are so glad that you are joining us tonight and allowing yourself to take a break and enjoy a fun activity. Caregivers here in New Hampshire have certainly had their fair share of challenges this past year, but we at AARP New Hampshire are here to support you. We hope you enjoy tonight's creative night. And Megan, thank you so much for having this event. Back to you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to reinstate the resourcing that AARP New Hampshire and the organization offers is truly tremendous. So as Mary posts those in the chat window, be sure to take a look at those. Whether you're going to review those tonight or not, be sure to click on them so you can at least have them open in your browser window. But I want to thank you, AARP New Hampshire, for having me. It's always such a wonderful time being here, and we have a great turnout tonight, even though there was a bit of a hiccup with our admin and signing on. So no big deal there. We will do this again, and we will not run into this again. So I encourage you to come back. Don't hesitate, please. Our inspiration is right over here. We're doing a beautiful nighttime scene, winter scene with some really basic colors. Now, for any of our art classes, I'm always going to encourage you to use whatever supplies you have. Whether you're painting on wood or paper or canvas, use whatever you have. Just show up, because this time is for you. You all work really hard, and we all need that downtime. We need that time to unwind, and that's what tonight's all about. It's time for you. So thank you for being here. We are recording tonight's class, so if you are unable to stay the entire time or would like to listen to the recording, that will be available to you. The first thing we're going to start with is just a brush of choice. This is I call it my bigger brush, but it's about a 1/2 inch brush. Grab any brush you want. We're going to paint the night sky together. And I'm using acrylic paint tonight. I put some black, blue, and white on my plate. Now, in my classes, I'm always going to encourage you to do your own thing. Use whatever colors you want to use, okay? It's really important that you do you in these classes. I'm here to empower you, not limit you as your teacher. So I'm going to go ahead and take this brush, and I'm going to get it a little bit wet. And I like wiping off some of those water droplets so it's not drippy. And we're going to put some black paint on this brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the horizon line where the sky meets the land. And you can see my whole canvas here. I'm going to do a hill, basically. And above this hill is going to be my sky. And below this hill is going to be the land where the deer is and the snow and things. So I'm just going to have some fun and just add a little bit of a hill here. Now, if you want to get fancy and do 2 hills, I don't care, go for it. You can get as fancy as you want. Oh, look at, I added 3 hills. That's quite a slope. Maybe I don't want that. So I'm just doing some black lines. You can add as many like layering hills in as you want. What I want you to keep is that we're going to paint the night sky black up here, okay? So add a line or 2 for some land in the foreground, okay? You can see where we're going. And we're going to use black paint and we're going to paint the sky black. Easy as that, okay? So I want to thank you everyone for being here. My name is Megan. I'm based in Vermont, and I absolutely love teaching these classes because it's a great way for you just to kind of turn your brain off from some of the things that might have been bothering you all day. And now you get to do something fun and creative. And tonight's inspiration is on the easy side. So sometimes we do different types of artwork in these classes. And tonight's easier. I praise be that it's a little easier for tonight because we're getting started a little late, but all is well. So all you're doing is just settling in, taking your time, and painting our night sky black. Now, if you wanted to get a little crazy and add some blues in your sky, you can. Like, this is where you can't do anything really wrong. So look, I'll get a little crazy. I'll grab a little bit of blue, and I could mix some blue in here if I wanted to. This is the fun thing about art, is it doesn't really matter, right? Art is about experimenting. And I like talking about that because it kind of gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit. So I'm having some fun with some blues and blacks. We're just filling in this night sky any way that you wish. I'm kind of holding my big brush on the side to get these skinnier streaks. It's kind of fun. Kind of go off the side of your page. If anyone else is using acrylic, don't worry, it will come off. If you're using acrylic paint, it will come off of pretty much anything except clothes. But I have a wooden desk I'm painting on tonight. And if it gets on my wooden desk, it was one of those fancy Mr. Clean magic erasers, I can get anything off. So don't worry if you get a little paint on something, you can get it off. But just have some fun. Some of you probably have plastic down or newspaper. That you don't need to do that, but it's totally up to you. And we're just gonna have some fun. Fill this night sky in any way that you want, okay? So I'm going about this pretty quickly. This is how quickly you can go because there's not a lot of risk here, okay?
Can you bring your photo down a little bit so we can see the top? No,
Like
not
this?
closer. Just bring it down some.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
probably just the window. Okay. Gotcha. Is that better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. It doesn't show me that it wasn't on the screen, so I appreciate that. All right. So I'm just going all the way to the top, and we're just filling in this night sky. Now I can see some of the blue I put in. Some of it I can't. It's no big deal. Okay. And let's just keep flowing here with our paintbrush and our artwork here. So if you have hills,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. How do you pin your screen?
yes. So to pin my screen, my name is Painting Instructor within the Zoom tiles. If you find me in the gallery view as a little tile, you can, there's a little blue square in the top right corner of that tile, and there says pin. That's where you would pin me. You can also do it from the participant list as well. My name is Megan, but I have it as Painting Instructor.
Thank you. I'll try.
Yep, you got it. There's 2 ways. All right. So everyone's taking their time, and always go at your own speed with these classes. I really just did a really basic black sky, and I did some blue, but it doesn't matter too much. And we're just going to let that dry. And the other thing is that we did some layers for some landscaping. Now, in the inspiration, there was one main hill, but I was having fun. I added one in the background here, and I had one down here. And if anybody's ready to transition, My sky is just painted black. It's just a single coat right now. We just want it to dry. Just do some nice, long, smooth brush strokes so you don't have any goopy black paint anywhere. That's really important. So we're gonna let that black part dry. And while that's drying, if you need more time for your sky, you just take it, okay? There's no rush there. But if you want to put some blue paint on your plate, just like I have here, you can clean off your brush. I have a water cup right here. Clean off your brush. And we'll put a little bit of blue on the top side of these hills, okay? So everyone that takes these classes, some of you have taken my classes before, and it's so great to see all the familiar faces. But if you're new, just always take your time, and if you have questions, just ask throughout the class. I'm happy to pause and answer those for you, especially in the chat window. But just take your time with each step and be open-minded to how your art happens. Art is sometimes unpredictable. So just be open to the process because sometimes it will just take its own turn. So for tonight's class, we're going to put a little bit of blue on the top side of any hills that you have, which is kind of fun. And I'm just following this hill down. And there's no method to my madness. I'm just like pretending like this is just a fun, icy area per se. And you can do as much or as little blue as you wish. We're going to bring some black in after, but the blue is some fun base color. I'm just going to do it kind of on the top half. You can see I'm kind of having some fun, making some of this wispy, but we'll bring in some black too. So have some fun wherever you have hills. Add a little bit of blue, maybe 2 or 3 inches, you can decide.
Megan,
Yes.
the blue, was it fillet?
Oh, phthalo blue. I
Oh,
would say,
yeah, it's-
you can use phthalo blue. Any kind of blue you have is fine.
It's like
This-
black though.
Yeah, so it's the phthalo blue is very dark. Yeah.
There, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
I think we have another that we were.
So you could use you just mix a little bit of white. If anybody has a phthalo blue, mix a little white with it and you'll just be a little lighter. So no
Oh,
big deal.
Thanks.
Yeah. I got you. All right, so we're just putting a little bit of blue at the top. And you could go as simple or as fancy as you want with your blue. I'm just keeping it really simple tonight. Because one of the things that we do in these classes is we kind of go step by step. Because we can always come in and add more color, add more depth. So if you've taken these classes before, you know that we take our time and we'll go in and make it a little more fancy along the way here, I promise. So look, I have a little bit of blue up here. Looks great. Absolutely fabulous in the most simple way possible. I can do a little feathering. And I'm using the side of the brush with just a little, not a ton of paint. You can do some fun feathering if you'd like. So you don't need a lot of goopy paint. I am going to add some black to these hills. So this is just kind of some fun feathering you can play with if you want to. And the feathering I'm doing has very little paint on the brush. And some people will call this a dry brush. So if there's not a ton of paint, there's not a lot of water, and you're just playing with the texture of the hills. Kind of makes them look a little windy or a little wispy. No, I went all out tonight. I did three whole rolling hills. Let me come down here and do the same thing for this one. All right, I'm going to do some fun flicking for some of this wispiness. I'm probably going to cover up some of this with the black, but you can just be in the moment and have fun with texture. Pretend like you're Bob Ross and we all know what we're doing here for a minute. It's always fun to do that. All right. There we go. I'm just having some fun. Guess what? We're gonna bring black in here and we're gonna cover up some of this, but you can see the fun texture that we're adding to this hillside. So as you're doing that, I'll talk through the inspiration so you kind of know where we're going. I am a bit of a planner, so I think some of you probably like to know where we're going too. So we're doing the entire background first. We're doing the black sky, if you've just joined us, and we're doing these hills. So we are going to fill in black within these hills. after your blue. So if you're happy with your blue, kind of fill in the rest with black, because once the hills are done, we can do the trees and the night sky and the swirling and the stars and all that fun stuff. But we got to do the backgrounds first. So that's just a little bit of what's coming. I think people appreciate that. But again, always just take your time. No rush at all. But I'm keeping it pretty simple tonight. So I'm happy with the level of wispiness and blue on the top of these hills right now. I'm going to go back and get my black, and I'm going to fill in these hills. Now, your hills can be filled in black. Like if you want to use black, you can. If you wanted to mix like a navy blue, you could mix in a navy. But anywhere you see white, and you can use this wispy kind of blending technique with a soft hand to kind of blend the black, maybe from the bottom of the hill up into the blue. See that transition? Sorry, I have a little bit of light reflection here. Oh, that's better. Perfect. So you see I'm just slowly wisping the black up into the bottom of the hill. And you can make this as solid black or as like a softer black as you wish. We're just filling in these hillsides. And this is a darker scene, right? So if you wanted to keep some of the white in here, you could. As an artist, you always have a choice of what to do. I'm going for the contrast tonight because, hey, why not? So I'm kind of doing pure black at the bottom of my hills. Some of you may have one hill, some of you may have multiple hills. If you wanted to paint in like a little pond, or if you wanted to paint in a snowman or a little river or a road into your scene, you can do that. And if anybody wants any examples of a road or a river, I'm happy to be the guinea pig in these classes, always, of something you could add in. So don't hesitate to use the chat window. If you're inspired to paint something or add something in, you just let me know. And I'll add it in mine if I don't get too many crazy requests here. So see how that's creating just some nice dark scenes. We are going to be adding some lighter areas to the tops of our hills so they don't look so dreary, but it's about trusting the process, okay? So sometimes we do things in these classes that things really will come together in the end. With regards to layering of objects, just have some fun. I might even bring more light blue in here. It doesn't matter. But I'm just going to slide this up so you can see all the way at the bottom. Okay, Kathy wants to see a river. I'll do a river for you, Kathy. Absolutely. See if I can where I can tuck one in for you within my crazy hillside here. But play with your brush strokes. Play with the angle of your brush strokes. Maybe consider the incline of your hill with the direction or the angle of your brush stroke, right? So if your hill is flat, you could do more horizontal style brush strokes. If your hill is inclined, you can do more of a diagonal style line to fill in your hill. So those are just things for you to consider as you're painting. And I have no method to my madness. I'm just filling this in black down here because we're going to add a lot of things on top of this. We're going to add trees. I'll add a river. We're going to add deer. Maybe folks don't want to paint a deer. You don't have to. You could do a snowman, anything you want. All right. So I'm just doing nice kind of solid coverage here. I'll probably bring the blue back down onto some of these areas. It might look a little messy to some of you. I'm not worried about it right now. I'm just embracing the process. Maybe you bring in a little bit more blue. Right now, mine looks fairly like unorganized. It's fairly straightforward. You can see just some dark hills. That's okay. I will call mine, it looks a little messy. It's okay. We wanted to get that black in and the blue as base colors. So right now, I'm not worried as an artist. I'm gonna make this look a little nicer, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. Okay. So I'll bring this back down. Actually, our night sky is drying, so I'll keep the area of focus. I'll even squinch this up a little bit. Our area of focus can be right down here. So one of the things you can consider as an artist tonight is making a secondary blue color. So one way to do that is I have a little bit of white paint down here. You can make a lighter blue with a little bit of white and a little bit of your blue. So I'm going to make a little bit lighter of a blue color to add to my hillside. And you can see this blue, it's lighter, right? You can see here. I'm just going to make a little bit. You don't need a lot. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this in some areas. And maybe I'll switch to a smaller brush just to show you what that does too. But with these classes, I always slow us down as we mix new colors. One, you want to find the right color. So we want to slow down to get it right. And I want you to find a color that you like. Very important. Now we're not going with browns and greens, so blues are a little bit easier, in my opinion. So I'm going to put my big brush down. I'm personally happy with this color. And I just have a few other random brushes tonight. If anybody has these brushes for me that you may have gotten in the past, I have a 5, I have a number 3. These are, they're small gold numbers on the sides of these brushes. Just use whatever next down medium-sized brush that you have. This is a number 5. You always get your brush a little bit wet. I'm gonna get a little artsy here with y'all, okay? So I'm gonna take a little bit of this new blue and I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna do some lines. It's kind of adding in a secondary color to these hillsides. Now you can do some longer lines.
Can you
Play
just
with
slow
adding-
down a tiny, tiny, tiny bit?
Yes, of course. If there's certain questions, please let me know.
No, just to slow down would be fabulous.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the step that we're on is really mixing a lighter blue of choice, and you can play with this and the color can change. We're adding in a secondary color or texture to the tops of these hills. And I'm using a smaller brush to play with adding in a little bit of light. So this is a little bit of a depth technique. You can use your finger to blend, but this is where it's a great part of the class just to slow down and enjoy adding in a little bit of extra detail. And I'm really just following and flowing with these hills. Everyone's going to have their own techniques. In the picture, it's a little more blended. If you want it to be less lines and more blended, you can use your finger to smudge. You could use a paper towel to smudge. With art, it's really just about following your intuition, not being afraid to try something new. You could dip your brush in a little bit of water. So I'm going for a look where there's just a little bit of a light blue and a little bit of that other blue on the top sides of these hills. And I want you to go as far as you want or as simple as you want here. Okay. So I'm just being really playful and open as an artist. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a lighter line on the top side of these hills. It doesn't matter. I just want these hills to stand out for you using a little bit of a little lighter colors. We will add a little bit of like a white or a light blue to these hills. We're not at that step yet. Sometimes I like to use my pinky to stabilize my hand. But you can see how the contrast of the blacks and the blues will start to come out. And you can use a light hand. You don't have to push down hard. Just follow the slope. See what happens. Take your time. I'm going with a really light hand. I'm starting and kind of going over the blue section, but I'm also kind of going down into the black areas. Just a little bit. One of the things I like to highlight and talk about in these classes is a little bit of mindfulness. And it's really just about the awareness to take your own pace, but more importantly, to pause and reflect on your work along the way. So like removing your brush from your canvas and actually reflecting on the work that you've done, saying, okay, do I want to add any more blue here or there? So for me, up here, I think I like it. It's enough layering, but maybe down here on my second hill, I'll add a little bit more. I may not know what that is yet, but I can play with it a little bit more. Maybe it's some thicker lines, maybe it's some thinner lines. I can play with that as an artist. So it's just really about you finding personal happiness with the work that you're doing. And it may be painting over something. So if you have too much blue, put some black over it, right? With acrylic paint, especially, it's really easy to kind of cover up something that you don't like. So you added some nice movement here. But if I have too much blue in this space, guess what? With a little bit of black, I can easily create a little bit more of the black contrast, bringing black back in. So do what kind of feels right for you. I have to figure out where to add a river for a special request here. Let's see here. So I did a little bit of blackish to show you. Now, let's see. If anybody wants to add a river, I'm just going to be improv here. So if you've taken these classes, you know I just kind of love to fly by the seat of my pants sometimes. I'm going to grab a little bit of white and I'm going to make a really light blue for a river. And for me, the river it's where it's further away on the picture, it's skinnier. And then where it's closer up in person, it's wider. So let's see here. So maybe my river will start up here in the top, and then maybe it'll get a little bit bigger as it comes around this bend. So I'm just being in the moment, just going to be doing a river. It's getting a little closer. So this is a river. So over here on the left, it's closer to me as a viewer per se. And it's further away over here. And I'm going to make this nice and skinny. My river's coming up over the hill. Now to get some of my perspective right here with my blacks and blues, I can fix those to fit within my river scene. So that's no big deal. So I'm just giving an example if somebody wants to add something else or a road. A road is the same perspective. If you wanted to add a road, it's wider where it's closer to you. Let's see. If this is a river, I'm going to say this is probably darker within this space here. So I'm going to add a little bit of contrast right in here. And I'm going to add a little bit more contrast right in here. So maybe the river come down. So you can play with your colors, right? This is all experimentation. I'm using a little bit of black maybe to outline the river, just so it stands out on the edges. Okay. You don't always have to have a plan when you paint. It's about being courageous enough to get started. And if you don't like something, guess what? I could always paint over this darn river if I wanted to, okay? So that's just a fun little river. You know, I'm using my imagination. I could make it bigger and wider down here if I wanted to. So there's a little bit of a river coming through, okay? And it's a little wavy. It doesn't have to be so wavy, but I can always modify that. So let me show you how to modify it. If I come in and I just make it a little straighter in some places. And the river can have a couple coats of paint. Okay. So it's just about art is an evolution. You start somewhere and you add what you want to into it. Okay. Awesome. It kind of looks like a road too, right? So everybody's gonna see different things. That's what art is all about, okay? All right, so I'm gonna let my river dry. It needs another coat, but a coat of paint, but I'm just gonna embrace it for what it is. And I'm personally happy with my hillside. I think it's enough of a blending for right now. I'll add some lighter areas to it after. But in this class, I'm gonna pause and let those areas dry, okay? And I'm gonna go back to my sky. Now, if you personally need more time on your hills, I was not striving for perfection because they are not done yet, okay? But if you want to spend more time on the hill area, you're welcome to. I am good for right now. And we're gonna do this really fun star swirling like situation, this North Star that's glowing in the sky. We're gonna do that one next. Okay. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves. Hope you're smiling. Be sure to smile. If you have someone in the room with you and they're painting with you, say, hey, you're doing a great job. And if you're there by yourself, just take a deep breath and we'll move on to our next step. All right. So for our next step, we're going to use, I want you to use a smaller brush of choice. I have this is a number 3, but you can use any small brush. And then I want you to use this medium tone blue. So not this blue lake or your base tone blue, the darker one. I want you to use this lighter one, okay? And I don't want you to have a lot of paint on your brush at all. So one of the tricks I like to share in these classes is to put a little paint on your brush, and you can, I call it paint management. It's a very formal art term. You can spin your brush, the tip of your brush, so you manage how much paint is on here. I don't want there to be a ton of paint. I want there to be just enough. It's kind of like the perfect bite of cereal. You don't want too much or too little cereal on your spoon, right? All right, so then I want you to find, where do you want that North Star to be, that glowing area? If you want to do a moon, you could do a moon. If you wanted to do a star, you could do a star. So I love the idea of a moon, actually. It's quite cool. So I could put a moon and I could do a glow around a moon, maybe. That could be kind of neat, right? Maybe I'll do that just to show you. And what you could do is you could use this blue just to maybe outline the moon if you wanted to, or you could just do no moon and you could just do a circular swirl too. So your starburst or your glow, it can be in the center or it could be off center. So sometimes I like to use my hands and I like to do finger placements for things. It kind of allows me to visually imagine where something may be. So maybe if I do it over here on the right, my deer will be on the left. So you can kind of make some of those choices, right? Around positioning. You can kind of make. And if folks could just check your audio, make sure you're muted, that would be great. I just heard a little bit of feedback. I don't know if anybody else did. Just heard a little bit of feedback. I don't know if anybody else did. All right. So I'm going to do mine over here. And I'm going to just do, I'm going to do a circle for, I'm going to put a moon. I'm going to do a moon just to be a little crazy here. So I'm doing a very uneven circle. I hope yours is more even than mine. If it's not, no big deal. I do not judge in these classes. So I have a space where I'm going to put a moon. I'm going to do a white moon inside of that. But what I can do is I can do some of these fun swirls around. So they can be as heavy in paint or they can be as light as you wish. You can play with how soft your hand is. Kind of doing rings. And I'm leaving a little bit of a gap in between these rings. Use a nice light hand. Go nice and slow. You can make these actual lines like me, and I'm doing a very soft, gentle brush stroke. In the picture, it's a little more wispy. So if you wanted to add a little bit of water to your brush, it'll make them look a little more wispy. could also smudge it with your finger. So you could do a brush stroke and then smudge it with your finger to make it softer looking. Oh, and somebody just launched the white screen, the whiteboard. So if you could close out of the whiteboard, that would be great. Frankie Murphy's, if you could, I believe, if you could close the whiteboard feature, please. So there's a close button. Please close the whiteboard. Frankie Murphy. And as folks are painting, again, feel free to, the whiteboard will go away. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. And then I'm doing a brush stroke and I'm smudging it with my finger while it's wet. So acrylic dries really quickly. So sometimes you have to like know how to manipulate acrylic. So I'm trying to make this as even as possible, this aura around my moon here. So that's another mindful piece that I'm focusing on. I'm doing a brush stroke. And you can make this as big as you want. I'm going to go out a little wider. So I'm going to have some wider gaps with the black. And I'm doing and I don't even need that much paint. So you can use your eye here and make choices on how much of this aura that you want. Okay. You can do smudging. See that? You're going to go off your page. So for me, this is on the right side. It's going off the right side. See how I just extended that over? And I want it to be fairly even. Like if I drew a full circle around it, I want it to be fairly even. Using my finger to smudge. Don't ever hesitate to get messy in these classes. Some people like the messy factor. Some people just don't want anything to do with it. That's okay. You just do you. Okay, see I've created a little bit of an aura with a little bit of this blue. Fun. And if you want to bring in a little bit of the darker blue, this is where you can have fun with layering. So we do a lot of layering in our classes. So you can bring in a little bit of the darker blue if you want to try that. Just using a little bit of darker blue, just layering that into the lighter aura. Just gives you a little bit of extra dimension. You could do big brush strokes. You could do little ones. Kind of just starts the vortex, right? And it's very subtle, but it will start to match and pair with all the other colors on your picture. So I'm doing a swipe of the paint and I'm smudging it with my finger. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but that is my creative process this evening for my aura here. And we experiment in a lot of different ways on how we bring paint in and what tools we use. Sometimes we use paper towels to smudge in these classes. Luckily, AARP gives us our creative freedom here to do what we wish with our tools. We don't go too crazy. We don't market finger painting though, but maybe we'll include that next time. All right, so I'm having fun just playing with these colors. I may bring in, I may clean my brush off a little bit and bring in my moon. So we're gonna do a lighter kind of coat too here of bringing in extra brightness. So I'm just gonna make like a really light blue. It's pretty much white, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of a light blue tone for my moon. You can see it's not white, but it's just a little bit of a touch of blue. For me, this is the color that I'm choosing for my moon. If you don't want to do a moon, you can use the same light blue color for your star too. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to do stars as well, but I'm going to do a moon in this space. Because, hey, why not? Okay, so this is where you can do a full moon, you could do a crescent moon, you could do a star. Just take your time. Decide what object you want to put inside your aura. And this is the tricky part, is trying to get your moon round. Doesn't always work out so well, but we just do our best. We strive to have a good time and relax in these classes. And I will continually remind you to don't be too hard on yourself. We're here to have fun. If there's any questions, feel free to use the chat window. I'll take a look at the chat in just 1 minute. Apologies, I have not been attentive to the chat. I'm just gonna slowly paint this moon in. We're gonna do a second coat, so I'm just gonna take a minute to do a first coat, let it dry. Should have done a crescent moon. It's a little less of a perfected shape versus a full moon, but you know, I love to challenge myself in these classes. All right. But again, I want to thank you all for being here, and a big thanks to AARP New Hampshire for having us. I know folks that are on the call are from all over the country, so a warm welcome, and be sure to join us again in the future. But look at that stunning moon, amazing. Now, if anybody wants to get a little fancy with me, as you're filling in your star, your moon, you can use this same light color, and you can do a very thin line on the top side of your hill. Look at that. It's going to have, and you could use a little water. This is a little bit of a trick. A little water, just a little bit, and you can blend it in. You could do a little water below it, and then you can use your finger to smudge it in. It's going to add a little bit of brightness. I'm going to smudge it with my finger. Maybe smudge it down into your rolling hill. Adding a little glow to the top side of these hills. So a little water and a little paint. You can do a little bit, a thin line, and I'm using the same brush. And I could even smudge that down with my finger right now if I wanted to. Watch this. So we'll do more of this highlighting, but since we had that brush in our hand, I wanted you just to see what this looks like. So I could use a little water on the tip of my brush and use my finger to smudge that in. You could do a long smudge. So it's a little water and a very little bit of paint. And sometimes we make a water wash to do this, but it's easy enough just to dip your brush in a little bit of water. Top side of these hills. This is a little bit of extra glow, and we're doing this now, or fairly close, to doing completing our background, is because we can't add our trees or any of the other objects on our hills until our hills are pretty much finished. So adding a little bit of the glow is helpful to do it a little bit now. You can always do it at the end too, but it's always fun to just kind of pepper this in along the way. So you can see how it just gives it a little bit of a glow here and there. So I'm just letting my moon dry. So sometimes in these classes we bop around because we need our sky to dry before we do other things. We happen to have the right brush with the right color. We might as well use it in another area while we're letting our moon dry, letting our aura dry. Okay. But we'll slow down. I want to make sure that everyone can play with adding any lightness. For me, I'm going to go back and my moon area. So there's things you'll notice if you're a mindful artist, which is something we try to practice in these classes, is my moon is not really centered in the middle of my aura. So what I can do is I can slowly, I can kind of widen my aura down here on the bottom just to open it up a little bit. So it's kind of re-wrapped around the underside of my moon. And this is like just a visual thing that I noticed as an artist. I'm just opening it up down here on the bottom, just a little bit. And you can see that just made it a little bit more balanced on where I have these like tight aura rings compared to these like wider ones. So I want everybody to be happy with your aura. Play with these details. I'm using a really light hand. One of the ways that I describe the brush strokes I'm doing is like running a feather over the tip of somebody's nose. It's just a soft, gentle glide with just the bristles of the brush, the tip of the brush, the tip, the few 2 or 3 or 4 bristles. That's how light I'm going. Try that. You don't need a lot of paint on your brush. You could even put a little bit of water. Manage how much water is on your brush. And just be playful with some of these steps. You could do finger smudging to smudge in some of these lines, or you could just leave them as lines. But the more details that you add, and you can see this is continuing to evolve, which is what these classes are all about. It's just having a little patience with the process. And you're going to know when you're done this space, right? So for me, I'm kind of going back, adding in different colors. I'm almost done, almost. But I'm taking my time because I want to show you what it's like for you to take your time too. Now you can also be playful here with some stars in your sky. So in the inspiration, I'll call it snow. They don't have like a starry night happening. They have snow all over the place. So what I will do for my picture tonight, so you can follow my lead or not, is I'm going to do some tiny little stars, like 5-point, 6-point, 7-point stars. And then I'm going to do like snowflakes as well. So I'll do snowflakes, but I'm going to do stars, a few stars, maybe constellations. If anybody wants to add clouds, you can. I'm not going to go too crazy, but I made this nice light blue color. And I'm just going to do a few simple kind of North Star style stars. And one way to do that is just use a really tiny brush, or a brush more importantly, that has a nice fine tip on it. You have bristles on the end that you feel like you're in control over. Usually I grab like a tiny brush to do this step, but this brush, I think I could do it with these bristles. But one way of doing stars is doing a small line down and making a plus. Basically, you could do a small plus and then you do a little X through it. So it's a plus and then an X. And you can make some of the lines longer. And you can make some of the lines shorter. You can do little like detailed lines, like starburst lines. Again, you want to have a nice small brush. I'm just being really playful. So there's a star. I'll just do probably 3 of these just to have a little bit of fun flair in the sky. I'm just doing some like outer lines, like a little starburst. This is just whimsical more so than a realistic scene, but I think it's fun and cute. So I'm just embracing my ideas tonight. If you don't want to do these types of stars, you don't have to. You could just do snow, right? All good. Sometimes it's fun to let go of expectations of what you feel like this should be versus you just having a good time and being playful. Sometimes being playful is better than something being totally perfect. But I know that many of us strive for perfection, so I'm not gonna judge anybody. So I have just a few fun, really cute stars. I am gonna do a second coat on my moon since my moon is dry. I'm keeping my moon a standard flat color tonight. If anybody wants to get fancy and add like craters in your moon by using a little bit of gray, you can. And I'll take a look at the chat window in just a minute as we're working on our sky details. But I want you to be happy with your sky. We're going to add snow at the very end as our last step. So snow will be our last step at the end. If you've already done it, no problem, but just hold off if you can. My moon is not perfectly straight and round. So for me as an artist, I'm noticing that and I will fix it. Am I worrying? No, but am I going to fix it? Yes, I'm going to try. Okay. Sometimes in these classes, when we do like large round objects, we trace like a bowl or something nearby. So if anybody has a bottle cap that you want to trace for your moon, you could certainly do that. All right, I think that's about as good as my moon's gonna get for right now. All right. I want you to be happy with your aura. I want you to be happy with your stars. My sky does not have lots of like galactic stars in it. Sometimes we do crazy galactic stars. If you want to add it, you can, but I am being very deliberate as an artist tonight to do snow at the very end. Okay, so I will pause. I'll take a look at the chat window to check in with everybody. And maybe we'll even do our first, if you want to unpin me to show your work, we sometimes show our artwork to one another. So if anybody wants to try that, I'm going to go to gallery view. If you want to unpin me, if you are like to show your artwork to everyone, sometimes we get inspired by seeing others. So if anybody wants to flip their picture around and hold it up in front of your video, we would love to see your art. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But we'll look around. Beautiful job, Miss Debbie. Great job. All right. Debbie, gold star for being the first person. I know there's a lot of people that are not shy, like Miss Kathy and Terry. Excellent job, ladies and gents. Miss Sheila and co. Dee's already started adding lots of snow. High five to Dee for breaking the rules. We love rule breakers. There's Miss Sheila. Very pretty. Miss Paula. Sheila has lots of light colors. Sharon, beautiful job. She added some really big hills, some nice blending. There's Miss Priscilla, and there's Deborah's. Deborah's coming. There's so many windows here. I'm just looking through. Many of you are just working away, so you just do you. There's Miss Sue's. Sue Brown, yours looks like a galactic scene all the way here from Vermont. I like that. You got this beautiful sky. I love it. There's Miss Lisa's. Great job, Lisa. All right. And there's Awilda's and Patricia. Great job, ladies and gents. So I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. This is a little bit of time for you, okay? I want you to be happy with your sky. And I want you to be happy with your rolling hills. So I'll do a little bit more work in the rolling hills to add a little bit more lightness. So if I want a little more snowy look on the hills, I'll add a little bit of a lighter look. But we're going to be doing lighter trees on top of those hills. So I don't want the hills to be too light, right? I want that dark contrast. So I'm being intentional there. Okay. So if anybody needs to pin me again, you can. Let me see if I can pin myself here. So if I go to view, you can go to speaker. Since I'm now the speaker view is the one way of seeing me. You can also pin my screen. My screen name is painting instructor, but my name is Megan. So you take your time here and I want you to be happy with your moon and your aura and your rolling hills. So we'll just take a little bit of time and then we'll give everybody 5 minutes. We'll check in 5 minutes. I am going to do a little more work on my rolling hills. Just gonna do a little bit of blending. You could dip your brush in a little water. You're gonna know if you want to add any lighter colors or darker colors to your hills. Just kind of follow your intuition here. Don't overthink it. Just lean back in your chair. A little water helps with blending tremendously. Okay. So I'm just taking my time. I'm kind of following the tops. Tops of these rolling hills can be a little lighter. So they might stand out a little bit more. You could use your finger again to blend. I'm gonna put lighter trees, light blue trees and white trees are gonna be what we're gonna use for our forest here on top. So I don't want to do too much lightness, but I'm just adding a little bit more in here and there. And there's no right or wrong here. It's just about doing what you want to do tonight. I'm going fairly simple. I'm not doing anything too complex. I have this river. If you want to add in any other colors, you can. I'm doing this river with a light blue. So I'm gonna do a second coat for this river. Okay. So the other thing I always like talking about for you to make the right choices is look at what brush you're using. Do you need to downsize and use a smaller brush? Sometimes that will solve a lot of your problems, is downsizing to a smaller brush. Or maybe tapping in and using a bigger brush. So consider that. I'm playing with the edging of my river. I'm gonna bring this black up a little bit here because it's a little too close to my river. I want this to be a little bit more contrast. It just gave the bottom of that hill a little bit more shade, which is what I wanted. But you can always bring blues onto blacks and blacks onto blues. So just know it's okay for things to change. Another trick that we use in these classes is you can grab a corner of a paper towel like this and use it as a smudging tool, which is really fun. So sometimes I take a small, it's about the size of the palm of my hand, and I stick my finger in the middle and I make it like a little tool. And sometimes I dip the corner of it in a little bit of water and I use that to smudge and I use it to blend. It's really fun. So there's a lot of tips and techniques that we play with in these classes. And I just want to applaud everyone for being here and enjoying the experience tonight, sticking with us. And I hope to see you again in February. I know that the February registration has been painted, so I encourage you to join us and I encourage you to bring a friend. And be sure to check out the resources that Mary has posted and shared in the chat. So look at that nice blending with just a little bit of a paper towel. Look at that nice blending that I did at the bottom of that hill. Really smoothed it all out. So you can do like aggressive smudging. Again, another very formal art term here. You can push and smudge, bring some of the blue down into the black. This is the best part about art, is that there's no rules. To get the look you want, you can experiment. And I love using a paper towel for this because this is a great way to blend your blues and your blacks together. Again, paying attention to the direction and the angle just kind of softens those layers for you. So I'll give everybody another minute or two. We'll just check in and then we'll do some of our tree work together. Some nice blending here. And tonight's class is recorded. So if you want to just keep doing your thing and spend another hour playing with the hills and the sky, you do that. I encourage you to do what you want to do in that regard. But to be mindful of time, we'll do our trees in just a minute. And we'll do a reindeer if you want to do a reindeer. Sometimes animals can be hard to paint. I always like being honest. But I will show you how to do it if you're interested. You can always get a pencil, wink, wink, if you wanted to sketch a reindeer before painting it. May not be a bad idea. But we'll do that together. Right.
Yeah, I think earlier you had suggested purple and green. How would you suggest incorporating that? If we
Oh,
wanted to-
sure. Yeah. So, if you wanted to put any purple into your hills, you could. So I will experiment and show you what that looks like. So I have blue on my plate here. Far too much blue. Put too much paint on my plate tonight. So I'm just gonna grab like a medium-sized brush. So mixing red and blue together will give you purple. So a little bit of red, a little bit of blue. Just mix this here with you. You could do green trees. You could, it's where I'm doing purple right now, you could incorporate green. But I'll show you purple. So there's a nice purple. It's a little dark. So if I wanted to take just a little touch of white and bring it, excuse me, into the purple. You can see that lightened it up. It's like a nice soft plum now. So I'm doing a little paint management. I don't want too much paint on the brush. So I'm spinning it on my plate. So it's not too goopy. And what you could do is you could just do some lines of purple, just kind of like coming in, soft lines. And you can use your finger to smudge. And you can see what that's what a little purple would look like. So if you like purple. So I'm doing a soft touch of purple and I'm just going to smudge it with my finger. And I'm just going to hide my light here so you can see it. I'll bring it even a little closer. So really pretty to add just a second tone of color. You could do that with blue or purple. So I'm just using the brush. I added a little bit of white again, just to make it a little less dark. But I could just do a thin, soft, feather-like brush stroke. And I can use my finger to smudge it in. Just do a little here and there. So that's a way of adding purple in if you wanted to. Blue and purple are great colors to be paired together. You can use your finger. You could aggressively smudge with your finger. Pretty, right? So you can see it's like it looks like a little bit of a pink tone on the blue, but it's actually purple, right? So it's kind of fun. And this is experimentation at its best, which I love. I love demonstrating how little risk there is to bringing in purple, right? It's such a good example of it and how it looks great. It has not ruined my picture, right? It's kind of adding a little bit of the Northern Lights glow a little bit to this. And a green would do the same thing. So you can pick and choose if that's something you want to add or not. So I'm just doing a soft brush stroke of color and I'm using my finger to smudge it in. Yes, if anyone has to leave, the recording will continue until I leave as the host. So you may, if you need to leave, no problem at all. And our friends at AARP New Hampshire will share that with you. Okay. So I'll give folks a minute to play with a secondary color, but I am going to keep us moving just to be courtesy of time. We've been painting for an hour or so, which is pretty good. Usually these classes last about an hour and a half. So we're doing perfect for time, really. We're cruising through. This is an easier, again, style painting tonight. So sometimes our classes last an hour and a half. Sometimes they lasted 2 hours. It depends on the complexity of our artwork. So we'll start the trees in just 1 minute. So play with any of the purple or green-like detail. I'm going to do a little bit of final edging for my hills, my rolling hills. I want there to be a little bit of like a clean line at the top. For me, that's important. So I'm just doing a clean, nice, light line at the top. For a little bit of the moon glow hitting the tops of these hills. So these are choices you could make. You can decide on where you want to spend a little extra time here or there. Some of you may be done, some of you may not be. So just go at your own speed. Okay. I am going to slowly transition us to our trees next. So I'm going to show you the inspiration so you know what color choices to make. So we're doing light blue and white trees. The light blue trees are in the distance. See these trees back here? They're smaller in size and they are a little, I don't want to say darker in color, but as you get closer, you can play with the height and the color. So these true trees in the foreground are white. Those are lighter. These trees up on the hill, they're a little bit in between this darker and lighter color, okay? The email will be, the recording will be emailed to you directly. Folks have questions there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with a blue color for the trees in the distance. So this is gonna be the darkest tree color. And it's really, I'm gonna use this medium tone blue. Okay. So I'm gonna use this medium tone blue and I'm gonna use a small brush of choice. This is a number 5, but I like the bristles on the end of this brush. So I would use I would use a smaller brush if you need a smaller brush. So I want you to have a brush so you can do some nice fine detail work. And I am going to do just a couple of trees over here on this hill. And the way that I do trees, it's one really easy way, is to do tree trunks first. And these are going to be fairly short in height. So I'm going to do a couple of lines for tree trunks. Little sticks. Okay? Easiest part of the entire class. I'll just do one more little one. So these are small tree trunks, okay? And just let those dry. Trust the process, trust me. I'm gonna do tree trunks for all of my trees, except the white ones in the front first. I'm gonna do tree trunks over here, and I'm gonna do tree trunks on the left. And I'm gonna leave room for where I want my deer to go. So I'm gonna put my deer kind of right here. Let's see, maybe I'll put my deer right here. So I'm gonna kind of put trees around it. So these trees can be a little taller. So I'm just going to use a steady hand as possible. And I'm going to do a tree trunk. And then this tree over here, maybe it comes further down into the ground. So see how this one came down a little further here? So I did 3 trees over here and I did 3 over here. You can pick and choose how many trees you want, but I'm doing tree trunks so it's tree placement. So I know where my trees are going to be. Now I'm going to do white trees over here. I'm not going to worry about those trees yet. I'm just going to focus on these ones. So I'll give you all a minute to put in lines. Consider the height smaller in the distance. They can get a little taller as they get closer to you. Okay, you can make some of those choices. And the trees in this inspiration are very easy. They're not incredibly detailed. There's a lot of different ways to paint trees, and trees can be hard to paint. So I'm being upfront and honest. I want you to find and use a style tree that works best for you, okay? The easiest way to find a style that works for you is there is small branches on the top. And then as you work down, the branches get a little longer. So just start painting. I want you to have a lean and tall and lean tree. And as you do your branches, think about texture. Don't think about sticks. Think about how full those branches may be. And then the trees can get a little wider as you work your way down. So I'm doing little dab techniques. You could just do long sweeping brush strokes like the inspiration. Look at that inspiration. I'll bring this actually down and put it right here so you can see what the inspiration trees look like. The inspiration branches are like long swoops. Like you can do long swoops if you want to. But it's tall. I'm alternating from the left to the right side of the tree using just the bristles on the tip of the brush only. And they're kind of flaring out. They don't have to be directly diagonal. I'm doing little brush strokes. You need to make your tree a little taller, you can. If you need to make your tree a little wider, that's fine. Just take your time. These trees are on a slope, but they're still up, pointing upward. So just find a technique that works for you and just go with it. Your trees are not gonna look just like mine. Everybody's trees look different. Trust me, I've taught hundreds of virtual classes. I know. To all different types of folks who don't paint a lot or that do paint a lot. Trust me, I've had everyone in my classes. You just focus on yourself and the technique that works for you tonight, okay? So you're gonna, once you find a style that works for you, you're gonna bop around from tree to tree, okay? Just work your way from the left to the right side of the painting. Take your time. I'm using little dabbing techniques. It's getting a little wider. I'm alternating from the left to the right side. I focus on texture. I've been talking about this technique of texture versus branches for a while, and sometimes it helps people to overcome the stick-like figure of trees. Instead of and then you focus on how branches are all different sizes and how they have pine cones and how some of the branches are broken, you know, all those things. And these trees are going to need a second coat of paint. So just do one coat and come back to them. Okay. Don't worry if the paint is a little transparent because you're painting on top of a lot of other darker colors. If you need to modify the color a little bit, feel free, but you're going to come in and do a second coat on these trees anyways. So don't worry about it too much. So I could get a little lighter, right? As an artist, I'm looking at my colors. I could get a little lighter in color over here. So look, I could just put a little bit of a lighter color. This may give it a little bit of a snowy look. I could do a lighter blue on top of this tree. So just play with these details. This is where everybody's going to be at their own pace. Think about texture. If you need to make your trees a little taller, maybe they got a little too short and fat. Happens often in these classes. Don't worry. Make your tree a little taller. See if that helps stretch them out a little bit. I'm doing downward kind of brush strokes. There's a lot of different ways you can paint trees. So try something, see how you like it. But trees have a lot of broken branches. They have a lot of critters. You know, got to improvise here for all the things that come out of them. You can make some branches a little longer, shorter. They don't have to be perfectly full. But this is where our scene is really starting to come together. We spent a good amount of time just to do the background, getting those details in order. And we just take our time to do some of this layering detail on top. And as you do branches, you can always do a couple branches right in the front of the tree, maybe coming down a little straight. Could try that. Experiment away. Make sure to just, if you have really thick branches, try using just the tip of the brush, grabbing a smaller brush. Sometimes that will help change the style, but if you like the style, you like what you're doing, then just keep going. You don't need to disrupt your process, but if you need to change your brush, consider it, changing your brush. You do a little bit of a lighter dusting, a lighter color on top of the trees. So in my classes, I always teach lots of depth techniques. So we always start with like a mid-tone color, like I'll call it a base blue. And then sometimes we add lighter colors to add depth technique, so to add a little bit of brightness. And sometimes we add a little bit of a darker color to add shading or a shadow. Now, we aren't doing a ton of shadows in tonight's class, but if you wanted to try to add a little bit of a lighter color, a lighter blue or a lighter white on top of some of these trees for a snow-like texture or a glow, you could try that. So I'm doing a little bit of that now. I'm just kind of in the zone, just playing with the texture of these trees. But these classes are meant for everyone of all skill levels. I am always here to offer different tips and techniques. I just want you to do what you're comfortable with, okay? You as an artist, you have your own choices to make in these classes, and just follow your gut along the way. Don't feel like you have to do everything I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat. I want to thank so much. Some folks do have to leave. I want to thank you so much for being here. I know that we had a little bit of a delayed start, but be sure to sign up and join us next class. Deborah, I'm so glad you joined and you loved the class. I will be adding snow. Judy, thank you so much for joining. Wonderful.
I didn't have paint, but I did do something.
What did you use for a medium?
I used markers and it looks nothing like anybody.
Amazing. I have had so many people use markers and crayons and highlighters and pens and pencils, and you showed up and you're here. So that's the most important thing.
Do you know the
And-
date for the next class and how to the link?
Yes. The date for the next class is,
I can't find the link, Megan.
oh, okay. Oh, I thought they said they posted it. Maybe they didn't. I'll look for it.
Who is they?
It's
are-
posted. It's posted.
Oh, it is posted. Okay. I'll look
Yes.
up the link and I'll put it in the chat window for everyone.
Thank you.
The next class is February 14th, Valentine's Day. And we're doing a really fun Valentine's Day theme. It's the word love, and it's like really artsy and beautiful, pinks and reds and blacks and whites. It'll be really fun. All right. I want to thank you so much, Sue, for joining. All right. Let me see if I can find the link really quick as everybody's working on their details. February 14th in class. Okay. Love all around. Nope, that's not it. Another one. Here we go. All right. Thanks to our friends at Google. Here is the link. I want to thank everyone for joining. I know some folks have to leave early. I'm using acrylic paper. I'll show you what it is. This is my last sheet. I got to get some more. It's made by a company called Kanzen. I use 11 by 14 in all my classes. It's such a great size, and it's oil and acrylic paper by Kanzen. I love this. I teach a lot, and it stores well, and I put them in frames to dress it up, which is quite nice. Can make it look real fancy with a frame. Cindy, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad it was your first time, and I hope to see you again. Andrea, thank you. Darla, thank you. I did post the link to the February class, February 14th. Our friends at AARP New Hampshire will be having us back, so thank you. All right.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I only had oil paint and mine looks crazy.
Oh, well, you have to show it off if you don't mind.
It looks crazy.
Let's see it, Mary Lou.
All right.
You might have to tip it downwards. Yeah, let's see if we can see it. So how was it with you for oil paint tonight?
I only had oil paint sitting here, so I don't know if you can see it.
A little bit. It's a little blurry.
Yeah, blurry.
Oh, funky.
I couldn't, paint over the
The
black.
blending was a little different, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just all wet.
All right. Well, you can let it dry and keep painting again.
I'll put my trees on.
Thank
did
you
a great
so much
job.
for being here.
Thank you. I loved it.
Oh, good. Terrific. All right, I'm gonna repin myself and I will do some white trees up here in the foreground. Just to be mindful of time for folks, and then we'll do some snow all over. So white trees, I'm just gonna use a brush of choice. My white trees are gonna be over here. And I'm gonna just grab some white paint. If it has a little bit of blue in it, it's no big deal.
No
I'm gonna
deer?
do those lines for placement. So my white trees in the foreground are I'm gonna find where I want the tops to be. So for me, I want the top of my white tree to be right in between these trees up here. How convenient, right? So I'm gonna start up here. This is gonna be a tall one. It's gonna come all the way down. It's a little scary, but you'll be good. See how tall that tree is? It's a big tree because it's in the foreground, okay? And I'm gonna do another one. The top of it's gonna be right here. And I'm just doing 2 tree trunks, right? And this one's gonna come down a little bit here. Okay, so there's my 2 trees in the foreground. Terrific. And I'm just gonna find a style that works for me for doing some texture, doing my branches. Okay. And just go for it. I do smaller at the top and I just slowly work my way down. And these are bright white, like this is just what we're going. Don't want bright white trees. You can always tone these down with a little bit of blue. It's no big deal. And this is gonna get a little wider. As you go down, you can change the angles of your branches. See how some of these are going down? Horizontal. And I'm not using too tiny of a brush right here. I should be using a smaller brush, but I can always come in with a more detailed brush. But you can see I'm playing with texture here. I'm not doing just line stick like branches. Okay, so you can come back in and you can play with some smaller branches. And see, there's always refinement you can do after. Okay, so there's one tree. It's a little more sparse, right? It's okay. And then I'm gonna do the other tree over here. So again, I'm just starting at the top, kind of alternating from the left to the right. And play with the style of brush strokes. I like to leave little gaps, natural gaps in between the branches. Some of these branches will go up. Some of these branches will go down. Some will come out. Trees are so uneven, you know, sometimes they look even and imperfect from afar, but up close, there's broken branches. Some are up, some are down.
Megan, is the deer too hard to do it now?
Oh no, I'm gonna do the deer. I'm committing for all of you.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I got you. Yep. And if anybody wants to grab a pencil and start sketching a deer, you're welcome to. I will grab a pencil here and sketch a deer. Animals can be hard, so sometimes we use pencils in our classes to boost our confidence just a touch. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Usually it helps. All right. So I am just adding in a little bit of texture. You can see the nice spacing that I have between these branches. It's easier said than done. I know that, trust me. I've done hundreds of these classes and painted hundreds of trees. It just takes practice, to be totally frank. So just have some patience and give yourself a little grace as you play with your trees. I came in and made the tips of these trees a little more pointy. That kind of helped a little bit. But every tree is going to be a little different. Okay. And the bottom of this tree might need to be a little bigger. Okay. I'm going to grab a pencil. And I'm going to darefully draw a deer. And I'll zoom down a little bit. And I'm going to do my deer over here in this field. Now I'm using a pencil. I hope you can see this. If not, I will quickly outline it with some paint. But a deer, there was a deer also like up on the hill up here too. Maybe I'll do the deer up on the hill here so it has a black background. So really the deer, you want the legs to be fairly long. So if you want to start playing around with the legs, there's kind of two legs in the front. So figure out what side of the deer is going to be the front. For me, my deer is going to be walking down this hill. So I'm going to do some like a leg coming down. Oh, good. You can see the pencil. So this is like the front chest of the deer. I'm going to do a leg coming down, skinny little leg. So maybe do two legs in the front. I think that might be the easiest place to start. And then you can figure out if your legs are long enough. And they're pretty skinny. And you can erase, if you're using a pencil, you can erase right on top of your picture. It's not going to hurt it. So you want long deer legs, pretty important. And then you can kind of figure out where the back of the neck is. And you can kind of do a little bit of a head. So you can be, and this is really tiny, so I apologize, but my deer is supposed to be tiny. So I'm doing the front of the body, and I'm just doing the head and the ears. So you can do little ears coming off. And then for me, I'm just going to draw antlers so you can see them. This is so tiny, but this is kind of what I'm going for tonight. So there's antlers right there. This is kind of a head and ears. So you can play the neck. You can make the neck a little more narrow.
I should sip wine.
Yes, you should sip wine. Yes.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
I'm sure everyone wants to sip a little wine right now. And then you're unmuted. You're so funny. It's okay.
I'm so stressed. Like, oh God.
That's okay. You have to play. Animals are hard. Okay. That's why we draw, right?
We're hard.
We use a little bit of pencil courage here to get our deer going.
Oh, look how nice your deer is.
It was magic that happened tonight. It doesn't always happen like this.
Deer.
Okay. So play with the antlers, right? So my antlers could be a little higher, which is one consideration, right? This could be a little higher here. You got little ears coming out. For me, the butt area is wider. See how it's more narrow towards the body up here? See, this is a little bit more narrow in this space. I have a little bit of a leg. You can have a little bit of a deer tail. So I'll let you look at what I've drawn. Drawing is hard for people that don't draw that often. So just give yourself a little bit of patience and grace. But the size of the body and how long the legs will really help your success, I promise. So pay attention to the size of the body and the legs, the length of the legs. Let me tell you, I've drawn a lot of animals that they just don't look right because their legs are wrong. And I'm going to find one of the tiniest brushes I have, and I'm going to paint this little deer white.
Megan, someone
Yes.
asked in the chat if they could do a snow person.
A snow person, like a snowman? Yes, I'm happy to do a snow person. Yes, happy to. I'm going to fill in my little deer, and then I'll do a snowman. So snowman's even easier. It's 3 round balls. The bottom ball is the biggest, and then you do 2 balls on top. One is medium size, and then one small. So I'll do one of those next, but I'm just going to fill in my deer here with white paint and a tiny brush. Now my deer is not perfect. It's okay, because it kind of looks like a deer today. Sometimes, and this is a baby deer, by the way. I wasn't trying to do a baby deer or a big deer. This one's just a little petite. So I'm just going to embrace my deer for what it is. Call it a win, call it an animal, right? Sometimes we just laugh and we have fun. This is like Bambi looking for its mom, like on the top of the hill or something. So, or it's just wandering because it's going to snow here in a minute. The back leg is a little bent, so it comes out diagonally and then down straight if you want a little bit of a different angle. Or you could just do all straight legs, okay? And now, good thing it has antlers because it kind of looks like a dog, but I'll call this an animal here. All right, so I'll show you a snowman. I'm gonna zoom back out. See how my legs are not long enough for my deer? They should have been longer, right? So I was talking about legs. It still looks like an animal, so I'm gonna call that okay. But maybe I'll put a snowman like over here by my river, if people wanted a snowman or snow person. So I can do a small circle. Since it's kind of far away, I want it to be small in size. So I'm gonna do a small snowman here. So that's the biggest part. I'm gonna do another one on top that's a little smaller. And you want to have a nice fine brush, small brush. Just pay attention to the bristles on the end and you'll be fine. So you're just stacking. And I'll add snow after at the very end. So I'm almost ready for snow. I do have another question in the chat that just came in, which I'll take a look at here in a minute. So I'm going to let my snow person dry because I'm going to add a hat to it and I'll add buttons and all that. So there's my snow person. And I did small in scale so everything matches. So if you want your sky to look like an aurora, there's a couple ways of doing it. It can be a little risky because there's like a smudging technique. But I will show you how to do it just briefly. So I'm going to grab a clean, bigger brush. I just grabbed a clean, it's not a bigger brush, it's the same like 1/2 inch kind of style flat tip. I have a purple right here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of water and a little bit of this purple and experiment with this for a minute. And to do an aurora, I'm going to use the flat side of this brush. So there's a wide side and then there's a flatter side. I'm just going to do a little bit of a line technique. So like a 1, 2, just do like a little bit of an S like this. And then you can slowly kind of flutter up. So you can do a little bit of, and it's a little tricky, but while this paint is wet, you can kind of go from the top of the line and give it a little bit of an aura glow like that. So it's kind of doing, and it's on the horizontal flat parts. So see how this line here is horizontal? You kind of go upward here where it's horizontal. If you want a little bit of an aura borealis look. It's a little tricky. You don't need a lot of paint. I don't want anybody to, I don't want you to ruin what you have if you want to try this, but if you want to try it, you can. But see how it's a line that you kind of do like an S kind of curve across. And then wherever it goes horizontal, you can kind of, the little water on your brush, you can kind of shift it up a little bit. I'm just doing kind of soft smudging upward. So it's a little bit, water is really helpful to do this step. Because it doesn't go on too heavy. Don't want it to go on too heavy. And you can use your finger to smudge.
Were you using purple?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just doing a soft flick and I'm smudging with my finger up. There's a lot of ways to do like an aurora like that. But this is just one way. And I could even do another one below it, but that just gives you a little bit of a sense of that. I'm going to go back to my small brush. I'm going to go back down to my snow person. You always want to make sure your brush is clean. Make sure your brush doesn't have a ton of water on it. My snow person needs 2 eyes and some black dots for the mouth. So hole for the mouth. You don't want water on your brush, otherwise it will get it will like liquefy, which is bad. I'm going to do a few dots for the buttons. My deer, I'm just gonna leave the way it is. So I just did like a little smiley face basically for my snow person. And I'm gonna give the snow person a red hat and a red scarf. For a little bit of,
You're very politically correct.
oh, am I? Well, I'm trying, you know, I am trying.
Snow person.
I know I'm trying. All right. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of a scarf around the neck with a couple of tassels. There we go. So there's a little snow person. I'll bring it closer so y'all can see it's like the most simple snowman I think I've ever painted, but you kind of get where we're going with this. I'm gonna do the snow as well. We're gonna wrap it up here in just a minute. Let's see here. I'm just gonna look at the chat. Doing a little mist or fog in the valley, just using a little bit of white and water, or like a light gray, on a paper towel with like a little water. You could do some dabbing and smudging. It will make it look a little misty for you. I'm going to switch to doing some snow, just as one of our final steps. I'm just going to grab a small brush of choice. There's a couple ways of doing snow. One really clean way of doing snow is, let me make sure this is up all the way. There we go. And I'm going to do snow everywhere. Is I use the round end of this brush, the round wooden end of my brush, and I have white paint, and I stir it around in my white paint, and I have a little bit of a dollop on the end of my brush. And I can use this to do tiny snowflake dots. The softer you touch down, the smaller the snowflake will be. The harder you push, the bigger it will be. And I'll add snowflakes all over my picture. All right. And you just take your time. And this is where you can work on any final steps that you wish. Some people in these classes spend an extra hour, no lie, on these paintings. Sometimes people are happy where they're at. Just know you do what you want to do, okay? But I know folks have to leave, no worries. I want to thank you so much for being here. Again, my name was Megan, and a big thanks to AARP New Hampshire for having us. Be sure to check out all their caregiving resources and beyond. They have some amazing resources and support available for you. But I'm just doing little clusters of one and maybe 1, 2 of snow. And this is what make your scene snowy.
Can we share one more time?
And we can share one more time. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the best part. Love sharing. All right. I'm going to remove my spotlight and we can go to our view and our gallery view. And if anybody wants to share their artwork, we'd love to see. Look at Dawn is a pro at painting a deer. High five, Dawn. Great job. There's
Well,
Miss Kathy. Beautiful
I-
countryside. Miss
I did mine
Claire.
ahead of time.
Yeah, Miss Claire, beautiful job, Miss Claire. Look at the snowy forest. Beautiful. Miss Teresa, great job. Bridget, as always, look at those trees. Stunning. Kelly, our risk taker, did green trees. High five to Kelly. Good job. All right. There's Miss Debbie. Beautiful job. Carla, Joan. Joan went with big trees. Joan, I appreciate those big trees. Nice job. Carla, your sky looks great. Nice. So this was such a good example. Joanne, nice job. It's fun with an inspiration like this. Everybody's looks so different, but because you as an artist, you can choose what you want your landscape to look like. You can choose what size your trees are, right? So our classes are never prescribed to be one thing or another because you get to make some of those decisions along the way. And I'm here to get out of your way and see how you do and help you. So I just want to applaud you all for being courageous. I know sometimes folks take risks in these classes and and try new things. So I just want to thank you all again for being here. I hope that you enjoyed the time today. again, I apologize for any of the delay up front. We'll be sure that someone's assigned an admin moving forward, but a big thanks to our AARP New Hampshire volunteers that joined tonight to put on tonight's event. And I hope to see y'all again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Corinne.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for joining.
See you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy New Year,
Bye-bye, thank you.
Cheers, Patricia.